Hey everyone, welcome back. It's day 3 of the challenge, and I'm super excited about today's discussion because I've definitely found this to be the most important factor when it comes to healing a leaky gut. Now that we have covered the topic of diet, we should be aware also that preventing a leaky gut really is beyond just food too. Time and time again, I see with clients how impactful controlling this one factor is in terms of getting their gut in check. And yes, even if you eat the right things and avoid all the bad foods and take all the right supplements, if this doesn't get resolved or if you don't account for it, it will be very, very, very difficult to get your leaky gut under control. In fact, I might go so far to say virtually impossible. So what am I talking about? Stress. That's a huge term. You've heard of it before. What does that actually mean though? What am I talking about? When I explain this, I'm referring to physical stress, like high intensity exercise, chronic dieting, late night shift work, concussion perhaps, poor sleep, and mental, emotional, and psychological stress. Physical stress is easier to control for when we can see the truth of how we live. And that's why I want you to revisit and analyze your lifestyle. If you're someone who's type A, overcommitting, over-delivering, over-caring, and always pushing to do more, be more busy, that is not serving you, okay? I have worked with many, many women who have that personality, and I've seen that it is what crashes their immune system, and you cannot heal in that place. It is not possible to get results in that way. You may feel like you can get through this, like, okay, Justin, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm fine. I have some fatigue, but I'm okay at the end of the day. I hear you. That's awesome. I commend you, but I'm here to let you know that eventually you're going to burn out. And when you do, it's much, much harder to recover, and it's not a place you want to be in. The body perceives this as a huge stress because you're putting in a lot of energy into daily things, and if there's anxiety or restlessness or resentment or fear, anger, it really adds to the fire. The nervous system just gets jacked up, and that turns on the immune system. It turns on antibodies and inflammation. That's how you get worse results. Now, I admit, it's not easy to change your lifestyle around suddenly on a dime like that and just make everything different. I'm not suggesting that at all. But what I'm saying is you can make a choice, and you can revisit and think about what things can change, because you might need to do that in order for you to actually get better results with your health. So I have a client who I'm thinking of, and she has Hashimoto's and autoimmunity and has 9 kids, and she still makes time for herself, makes no excuses. She shows up every single week for the Zoom calls that we have because she realized that she can't pour from an empty cup. She had to serve herself if she's going to continue to serve her family and do that to the highest ability. Putting herself first has to be a non-negotiable for her. It has to be non-negotiable for you as well. But I also want to focus on emotional stress, whether that's subacute or chronic stress, because this is where most people I find with Hashimoto struggle. This refers to anything in the present day right now that's going on in the world and in the country that you're living in, but also with things from the past like trauma, early adulthood stress, and childhood stress. Okay? Now, you may be saying, well, Justin, I don't have trauma, so this doesn't apply to me. I had a great childhood. My parents were nice. I went to school. I graduated. I have a great career in the family now. And that's awesome. But hear me out on this, okay? And that's fantastic. I'm really glad to hear that. But please, hear me out on this. Most people have something. Trauma in Greek means injury, whether that's to the mind, the body, or the spirit. And everyone really does experience something. And oftentimes, that lived experience, whether it's abuse, neglect, abandonment, death, divorce, and more, it instills a story and a series of emotions that we attach to, or we usually numb it out. We resist it and we avoid it because it's really just too painful to face. We know from decades of research that these emotional blocks and unresolved traumas do create blocks in the body and prevent the natural flow of healing, especially in autoimmune disease. The long-term consequences of a childhood or adult experience, whether you think it was trauma or not, can be massive, massive. So for example, if you were in 5th grade and maybe you had some classmates pick on you, that could be trauma. Or maybe your mother never expressed her love to you. Maybe your father was never around. You grew up in an alcoholic family. Maybe you were never praised for your grades in school, but you were just told by your parents to do better. Maybe you had to take care of your own mother because she was sick and she expected you to help her all the time. That's what I mean. And part of the reason as to why you may not know this is because you don't remember anything. That happens all the time. Because when you're in crisis mode, you don't have the resources to handle it. So you numb it out in order to survive. And you find other ways to process the pain that you're unable to process at the time. There is an epigenetic impact that can occur with a strong enough lived experience that people go through, which simply means that lifestyle factors change the way your genes are expressed. So it's all really relative, not what you think, not what you consciously think is traumatic or not for yourself or for someone else. Your body has simply decided. The attachment or suppression is a psychological burden that affects the body through unhealthy patterns and behaviors and lifestyle choices that are adopted as coping mechanisms such as binge eating, drinking, materialism, dieting, drugs, alcohol, etc. So you're probably wondering, how does this affect or cause a leaky gut? Trauma equals stress. It's a low-grade stress that lasts for years. We know that people who had early childhood trauma and stress have high cortisol levels, and that increases catecholamines like adrenaline, noradrenaline, and inflammatory markers like CRP. Many people I work with who have Hashimoto's are struggling with daily stress and past trauma. One of my clients actually who just finished up with me, her name is Amy, and she was somebody who dealt with a lot of childhood stress, which really bled into her life now as a 50-year-old woman with a family. And I'll give you a brief idea of what I mean and how this affected her gut health and Hashimoto's. So her mom was arrested when she was 5 years old. Her mom didn't help her make friends, and she was not given the proper attention she needed from her parents. We call that emotional neglect or relational trauma. And it left her feeling really angry, ashamed, and had a sense of abandonment. Her father didn't give her much attention, and so she felt that she had to continue to do the right things in order to get his approval and feel worthy. So as a result of all these experiences, she became a perfectionist and a people pleaser. Like, she constantly tried to satisfy every person's needs. I remember when Amy told me, Justin, I remember as a kid thinking, everything has to be okay in order for my parents to like me. But when her father died, she didn't have anyone to please. And that's when her Hashimoto's got worse. So now, as an adult, she would feel guilty if she didn't live up to that high expectation of being a people pleaser, or if she wasn't the perfect mom. This really had an undertone of unworthiness, essentially. And her way to cope with it was to serve others, be a perfectionist, and please everyone she met. So it's all a reflection of her lack of worth and attention as a kid. The unresolved emotions of anger and shame fed into her Hashimoto's. The pattern of people-pleasing and being a perfectionist really became a physical and mental stress on her body, which created leaky gut and a lot of gut issues and a whole host of other symptoms that were not going away. So before anything else, we spent all our energy on that. We spent many months working through this, and slowly but surely, she was able to change her behaviors because she saw how these patterns were protecting her wounded child. Her ability to see that and see how valuable she really was and safe she was really the gateway to healing her gut and her Hashimoto's. So hopefully you can see through that example that if you have stress that's ongoing and never stops, it can really worsen the leaky gut issue and your other symptoms as well. Even if you do all the right things with diet, supplements, and medications and so forth. So be aware that stress directly alters your neuroendocrine pathways, your hormone system, your immune system, your nervous system, which means that this low-grade stress is really this gradual, insidious thing that's changing how your cells and immune system operate. Now, while this is definitely not an easy task to change this and heal from it, my recommendation is for you to start exploring this within yourself. Think about the patterns you possess and ask, is this serving me? Or is it really protecting a part of me from the past? Is it people-pleasing, perfectionism, blaming, judging, criticizing others, trying to be better? Is it addiction to food, exercise, alcohol? Is it centered around anger or fear? Is it a sense of unworthiness or inadequacy that you feel? No, this is definitely not an easy assignment. And you may not want to do it. And that's your choice. But my encouragement for you would be to start reflecting on this. this is a great opportunity to take a huge step in the right direction. That means calming down your Hashimoto's, stopping the inflammation, handling more foods again, and healing your leaky gut ultimately. I talk so much about this inside the Hashimoto's Academy because it's so critically important. I see it across the board with women with Hashimoto's, and it needs more attention. The emotional aspect of Hashimoto's is so grossly underrepresented and underrecognized. And you need to focus on that if you want to get better results. This has become the difference maker I have found when it comes to losing weight, clearing brain fog, and having more energy, to name a few. So if you want to learn more about this, I definitely encourage you to sign up for the Hashimoto's Academy. So just click the link below this video. And if nothing else, please be aware of this and start to explore this within yourself. All right, so thank you for your attention today. Have a great day. Be at peace. Be kind to yourself, and I will see you tomorrow.